How We Make Movies is recorded in front of a live audience in Los Angeles and is hosted by WeMakeMovies.org. Hello and welcome back to another edition of How We Make Movies. I'm your host, Amanda Lippert. Tonight we'll be talking with the founders of Little Dog Productions to discuss the recent success in producing and selling their full-length indie feature, Wages of Sin. Please welcome our writers and producers, Sam Ingraffia and Doug Burch.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let me start by saying congratulations on your recent success.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to take credit for all of it. I did.
I'm sure you both had your little piece of the pie.
No.
It was all you?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you start by introducing yourselves? I know you are both multiple titles.
That's so polite. Isn't that sweet?
You want to go first?
Yeah. Writer, producer, director. Started originally in theater. Got a degree in theater. Traveled around. Wound up in L.A. And Sam and I met and went from there. So.
And Sam, what about you?
I started as an actor. Did a lot of episodic television through the 80s and 90s, playing sleazy bad guys.
The mustache.
I can see that in the 80s.
Well, thank you. Yes, I was very good as a sleazy bad guy. I got into writing again. I have theater background. Started writing for the theater. Basically, through a kind of weird development, I was doing stand-up with a partner, and we were doing it in comedy clubs, and we got a development deal at Universal, and that's how I started writing. Wrote episodic television for about 10 years, and then met Mr. Burch, and I decided that I didn't want to do television anymore, that I wanted to do independent films. He was interested in developing independent films, and that was kind of it.
And that's how you guys came to be?
Well, it actually, our sons went to school with each other, which is the greatest networking thing of all time.
That's true.
Children is like cheap labor, and networking is great.
Have kids.
We were, that's
worth it.
That's the greatest note to filmmakers.
But on Parent Day, we were the only two guys.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Everybody else had like a real
it,
job, or it was the mothers.
Mr.
So we
Mr.
realized,
Mom.
I wonder what he does for a living.
I know I'm unemployed, but what do you do?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I'm unemployed too. Yeah, that's right.
So that we started chatting with each other, but we never really talked about show business. Doug's good enough to be like a professional carpenter, and he has a full woodworking workshop at his house. He lives 5 minutes from me also. So we would walk over to his house, and he would like pull out his stuff and show me his saws and
woodworking stuff.
All of your man toys?
I didn't know we were
I'd jump in and fill that in real quick.
show me his power tools.
Even man toys and power tools, you have to be very specific.
Exactly.
That's very true.
For all the listeners out there, I'm referring to things used to cut through wood to build things.
Yes, carpentry.
Anyway, that's how we kind of started hanging out together. And then I called him and said, would you like to do a project together, work on something, put something together? And he said, yeah. I had written a short, and that was kind of how we started.
Yeah. And in fact, from the woodworking, we were frustrated because a lot of the shows that were on at that time, people had $1,000 worth of equipment. And you go, a real woodworker doesn't have that, a real homebody. So we actually did a series, or started a series, a pilot for people who just lived in apartments.
Called Shop Talk.
Shop Talk.
That's amazing.
And we kind of did a whole spiel where he and I played off of each other, and it was, we pitched it, tried to get it picked up with some of the home networks because they were just starting out and they were looking for material. So we kind of liked working together and said, this is a good deal. Let's keep doing this. So.
Right.
It's interesting. My producing partner and I started off in a similar way, doing a web series for like beauty and like fashion, and we learned everything we needed to learn, and then started doing fiction writing.
Well, the irony is we went to a public access station back then, so you could get some kind of training. And he and I looked at each other after the first day and said, "You know what? We know more than that.
Just give us the camera. Give us the camera.
Just give us the camera, and we'll get out of it."
But again, we didn't really know what to do. We had been actors and we had been writers and we had, supposedly been producers on projects, but we had never really produced a project.
At this point, how long ago was this that you were working with public access? I'm assuming because web series weren't really a viable option yet.
There was no.
This was like 2002, 2003, something like that. And we didn't want to buy a camera.
Right.
And we didn't at the time know anybody that had a high-end camera. So we went to this silly meeting at the public access studio, and they're telling you when your time slot is, and we we have a cooking show that's on then, and we have.
So we said, can we just take the camera and go do our thing?
And that's what they
and
kind of went, yeah, I guess so. Do you have to take the editing class, though? We're like, yeah, well, we'll take the editing class after we shoot the thing. We never showed up again. We just shot the camera with the camera and brought
And
it
we
back.
actually, again, had some friends, one guy that was a director and a lighting guy, and they kind of took that portion of it. Now, we had both worked in theater, so we knew about building sets and lighting and things like that, but we hadn't transferred over to the film yet, or the video. So it's like this was a whole new experience.
And that's
for us.
from there, we decided, okay, we didn't go to film school, but we thought, what's the fastest, smartest way to kind of learn how to make movies? And so we said, let's make shorts. So we took turns kind of writing scripts. We took turns directing them, and we produced them, and we made, I think, 7 shorts in the period of probably a year and a half, 2 years. We were just like cranking them out.
Wow.
We actually had some friends, an actress who needed some footage. So we wrote a short for her, and then we thought, you know, this is good enough, let's enter it in a festival.
And that's how we met the actors that are in Wages. It was they had worked in shorts that we had done.
Right.
So we had a relationship with them already. We liked them, and you know, we're kind of hokey old guys. So we basically say, you know, if an actor is working in a short for us, we'll say, okay, we'll give you the footage. We may not be able to pay you a real lot of money on this, but we promise when we get to the next level, we'll bring you along with us. And that's kind of what we've tried to do is, you know, we made an internet series that was really cool and looked really good and it's done really well, and we used almost all of the actors that had done shorts for us. And then when we shot another film in Virginia in 2009, a feature that we wrote, and Travis, Travis Young, who's in Wages, had worked in a short. He'd actually, the first time we used Travis, he actually was holding up. He had just come from Louisiana, and he said, I'll help you on the crew.
Yeah, he just wanted to be a part of it.
And he was just the sweetest guy who worked really hard, and Doug said, you know, he's a really good actor.
Wow.
So we tried him out in one of the shorts, and it was like, wow.
Yeah,
he's a really good actor.
He's like really good. So yeah, so we put him in the short, and then we used him in 2 of the episodes of our internet series. And
he actually saved us. We lost one of our lead actors in one of the shorts, and he came in and in 4 hours learned the script, did an amazing job. I mean, so for Sam and I, that kind of commitment says we're going to pay you back down the road somewhere. We're going to give it back.
You don't forget that kind of stuff when people really save you and come through. And also, he did an excellent job. So when we got the gig to write this script for the film in Virginia, we said to the director, we just happen to know this really interesting actor who would be really good for the lead role. He met the director liked him, and he went to Virginia, did a great job. Michael Rooker's in the film, and Travis held his own with Michael Rooker and did a really, really good job.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
And when we were putting this together, we just said, okay, well, we'll just use Travis.
Yeah.
We'll just
and
use
we'd
Travis.
actually given it to him to read just to see what his thoughts were on it, because he's from the South, and we thought, well, let's get his take on it. And he really related to it well. And then we were lucky enough, because I had come to a couple of the things that we make movies because of Tara and a couple of other people that were involved here had said, oh, just come check this out. So I came and was so amazed by the energy and the positivity. I told Sammy, I said, you got to come. And so we had just started on this. They said, well, bring in 20 pages. So we brought in 20 pages, got some amazing feedback, brought in 20 more. And in the second 20, someone in the audience said, you know what, and something needs to happen at this point. And it was a great note. We wound up using it in the movie. It's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it came out of We Make Movies.
That's
it's
great.
just such a great opportunity for a writer to hear your words. First, just hear them.
Yeah.
And then, secondly, to have them read by really good professional actors. Lastly, in this situation where there's kind of no, it doesn't make any difference. It's a no-lose proposition for you. It's basically nobody's judging you. You're just hearing it, and people are trying to make your project as good as they possibly can. And that's really hard to find anywhere, but really hard to find in Los Angeles.
Yeah, they're not trying to force their script on you.
Yeah.
What they do, they're saying, here's your script, here's some thoughts, as opposed to saying, you know, if you had a car chase here, and it doesn't have any cars in it, it's on camels, you know? So, but you've got that mentality.
And people know how to make comments here. They give you very doable comments, as opposed to I didn't like the second act, which is not okay.
Doesn't help.
Yeah, that doesn't really help me. You know, I
don't like your top.
Yeah, okay, exactly.
we're even.
What do we do now? Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
So we started again with the shorts, and that's how we met the director of our first movie, Atlantis Down, and
At a film festival, our short was playing. Our short was playing at a film festival here in LA, and I was wearing cowboy boots and a bowling shirt. And the director's partner came up to me and said, and he was wearing a bowling shirt very similar to my bowling shirt, and said, "Great shirt." And so I said, "Hey, are you being sarcastic, or do you really like it?"
It was love at first sight.
I was going to say, when you look up and see the other person, you know they're not being sarcastic.
And so we just kind of hung out with them for the whole week, saw a lot of movies together, and again, like I said, we're kind of hokey old guys. It's like at the end of the school year when the festival's over, we said, we really have to stay in touch. And but we do.
Yeah, we do.
We like actually call people and email.
Are you so old school that you still write letters?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
really?
Yeah,
I use a fountain pen.
Yeah, me too. I have one too. I like all that stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful calligraphy. It's a lost art, so why not bring it back?
I remember that for summer camp, we used to send postcards.
Oh yeah,
throughout the year.
You know how exciting it is to get like a letter from somebody or a note from somebody? It's just the coolest thing in the world.
First off, it's a strange thing in the world. What? Do I owe someone some money? It's not a bill. It's
right. You open this one. I don't know.
But the director at Max, he actually said, we've got a project that we're trying to do, and so Sam and I he hired us to write a script. And the funding was coming about, and then the economy tanked, and he had one investor with so much money that said, Sam and a Doug.
He's Italian from Italy, and he's the sweetest guy in the world, but he has this great Italian accent, so we became Sam and a Doug. We're like one
Sam
word.
and a Doug. And
Sam and a Doug.
I've got so much money, and this guy likes science fiction and chess. Go.
Yeah, that was it.
So in a week and a half? It was ridiculous.
A little bit longer,
it was
but not much longer. No.
Like maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We wrote him a feature, and he said, "Okay, let's put it together." And he had the funding, and so that's how we wound up in Virginia.
Rewind for a second. How did you meet this guy? And you knew he had money?
Festival.
No. We met Max at the festival, and Max had put together He had put together a project that I think was at one point $30 million.
Yeah.
That was going
amazing.
to shoot in Rome and Bulgaria.
He had some locations that had never been used before.
Yeah, and they were going to shoot in underground Rome, and we were spending the money before we even got it. We were looking to go big time.
And this was just a person that you had met at a film festival and made buddies with because you had matching shirts.
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
Literally how
it can really happen that easily.
It truly is.
That's one of those weird business.
Yeah, it was so bizarre.
And then the economy tanked in 2008, and that project fell apart.
Okay.
But as Doug said, he wanted to put together another film that was on chess and sci-fi. So we cranked out the script, and initially we were going to shoot it in LA, but then it was much more cost-effective to shoot it in Virginia.
Did you, when you wrote the script, did you do it on just blind faith, or did he already?
We did it for money.
So he had already offered you the money.
He paid us, yes.
Knowing that, seeing the projects you had done in the past.
He paid us.
Okay.
And again, he liked us. He knew, because from the other feature we did, the $30 million one, he knew he could talk to us and he'd give us notes. We didn't say, "Oh no, it's got to be like this." It's like, dude, it's your money. Fine, we'll change it. Again, the whole thing about, yes, it was good to get a paycheck, but it was also a job, and it was like, if that's what you want, fine. But then there was a lot of discussion about the script too, because there were things that he wanted an action adventure, so we had to put that in, and it was that understanding.
But what we do, just because we can't stop ourselves, is we basically, everything we write, we try to sneak in some psychological stuff, and we try to put some humor in. That has nothing to do with marketing the movie.
Right.
We know all the elements that you have to have in the movie to market. That's just us.
Well, it's because of being actors.
Yeah.
Right.
We always try to look at it from an actor standpoint. If you get a script and you go, I come in, I go, "May I serve you, sir?" Is there more you can do with the character of the part?
You do it with an Irish accent.
Right.
And then
something that, maybe he was in the IRA, who knows?
Yeah.
But there's something there that gives the actor more to hang on to, and we love that.
But I think that's also just a great note to writers out there is, you're doing it for a paycheck, yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean it can't be fun or interesting. And you try to work in your own personality. And my approach, at least, is after years of writing television, my approach has been put it in there, write it, have a good time, and let somebody say, take it out.
Or as we heard in the last podcast, ask for permission later.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. You know, put it in there. It made me laugh. Okay, that's good. I'm happy. If they don't like it, fine.
Yeah, if someone down the road says lose it, we're not married to it. So
Yeah.
it's like, fine, no problem.
Yeah.
So just to recap, at this point, you had a comedy career. You'd both been actors. You had met, done a bunch of shorts together, and also this series that may or may not have worked out on public access.
Yeah, right.
Then we did a web series.
Then we did a web series which worked out very well,
Very
which is
well.
called, I'll do a little plug, Nightwalkers.
Yeah.
I watched that,
Oh,
by the way. I
okay.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Cool.
really
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
Again, that was a spin on the Twilight Zone. We love the fact that
Yeah.
that they were always having different actors every week. So we said, let's do a web series so it's not one continual story, but it's different stories and different actors. So we employ more actors.
You
more
get
people.
actors to promote the show.
Yes.
Because you have different actors in every episode, and you have a different director for every episode who's
episode.
promoting the show, too.
That's huge. I noticed a lot of young independent filmmakers try to do everything themselves. They want to produce it, they want to
Yeah,
write it, they
right.
want to direct it, they want to star in it.
Yeah.
How important is it, do you think, to really, you know, throw that net out and get as many people involved as possible?
I think the biggest mistake you can make, and you know, we know this because we've done this.
Made it.
We made the mistake. Is you know, you try to do wear too many hats, and you know, there's somebody sitting over here who's much better at running a camera than I am. So why would I be pretentious enough to say, why don't I run the camera today? You know, that's
And in
not.
fact, years ago, I had a theater manager that I worked with, and I was doing technical director, and he had said, I always came in, he was always reading the New York Times, and I said, Chief, what is this? We always come in, and he said, I hire people that are
Yeah.
smarter than me and better than me,
That's his-
so I don't have to worry. And we kind of took that philosophy,
Yeah.
saying, you know what, hire someone that knows what they're doing.
I think
and does it
Henry
well.
Ford said the same
Yeah,
thing.
and it's the secret of success, and also makes the set much easier to deal with
Right.
because, you know, if he's directing and I'm producing, you know, I don't want to have to go out and do all the little things that the lighting guy's supposed to be doing because we're paying him to do the lighting things. Why would I go over and, you know, if something looks horrendous, I'm going to say something or he's going to get fired. But if he's a competent lighting man, you know, fine, go do the lights, have a good time, you know, eat some donuts, and then.
And
do
that's
the
why we
lights.
were lucky. That's why we were lucky with this movie, because the DP
Yeah.
liked the movie, came on board, really promoted, and he brought some A-list people
Yeah.
with him that we couldn't have afforded, and they came because of their trust in him.
Right.
He would say to them, "I know they can't pay you your rate. Read the script. It's something you want to be a part of." And they'll treat you right.
That's
So-
Michael Franks.
Michael Franks.
Just
How,
a
how did
great
you
guy.
meet Michael?
His son went to
Again,
school with us.
it was-
Went to school with our
and-
son.
It was
I'm
someone
telling
we
you.
knew and
Yeah.
never really thought we could work with, because he's an Emmy winner. You know, he's like a big time.
Right.
And we thought, let's just throw it out to him and see.
And he was so cool,
Yeah.
you know. Hi, Michael. We just wanted to know if you'd be interested in working on the movie. You would? Oh, great. Well, you know,
We
we
can't
probably
pay you.
can't pay
Yeah,
you
your
usual
rate.
but
Would you like to read the script?
oh, you would? Okay, great. And so you give him the script, and then you go, oh man, I don't know if he's going to do this. And you know, and then of course he said, yes, I would do it. And we're sitting in my backyard, and I'm trying to be professional, and I say, you know, so Michael, here's what we have to pay you.
yes.
And he's like, it's fine.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, okay, all right, well, good. Well, good.
Wow.
Boy, I sure handled that well, didn't I?
And then he goes, what else can you bring? Do you have a camera?
Well, there was, you know, my pet peeve with independent films is bad sound.
Yeah.
I can pretty much tolerate just about anything else, but bad sound just really drives me crazy.
That'll ruin just about any good film.
Yeah, so there was
Yeah.
a sound person that everybody had said was just dynamite, really, really good. But she wanted more money than we could pay her. So again, I'm on the phone and I'm trying to talk her into doing it. And she's giving me, well, I'd love to do it, but I don't think I can do it for that rate. So Michael called her and talked to her, and she basically did it. So it was basically, if you have somebody that is your advocate,
Right.
it's amazing what they can
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
to you.
So Michael, because he loved the script and he knew you guys through your kids,
Right.
you were able to get him on the film, and he ended up being able to bring a good sound person and the other
Assistant
talent.
camera
Assistant camera
operator,
operator, brilliant.
Really, really good. Some grips who he'd worked with before. We also had a really good line producer
Yeah.
who basically, he came out from Ohio.
Yeah.
And again, we met him at Starbucks when he had just got
Ohio?
out. Yeah,
I'm from
I
Ohio.
love people from Ohio. We work
We
with
are
a
the
lot of-
nicest.
We work with a lot of people from Ohio.
I tell you, it's
I think we're
amazing.
about the nicest outside of Canada.
Yeah, we say the same thing. Almost everybody that we work with in our production company, through John Wagner,
Right.
who's our line producer on it, he brought in a lot of people who went to film school in Ohio, and they're just the nicest people. You keep going, he can't possibly be that nice.
We've got that good German stock,
that
good
what it
work
is?
ethic.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
It is.
We work them to death, and they're still like
And we're
really-
still smiling.
Yeah,
We
that's
love it.
At the end of the day, they're like, okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he had worked on a bunch of films, and basically he brought in a really nice group of crew people. And should I tell them the donut story?
Yeah.
Tell us every story.
This is, well, we got a million of them, so we could bore you for hours. We're shooting, and it's about the fifth or sixth day of shooting, and there's a scene in the movie where Travis's character, Buddy, is eating a jelly donut. And when we were writing the script, both of us hate when you bite into a jelly donut and there's not enough jelly in the donut. So you kind of go, you got to turn the donut around.
You get to the side, the filling side. It's like,
So we said,
Why can't they evenly distribute it?
Yeah. And you even bite into the side where the injection hole is, and there's still not a lot of jelly there. Anyway, so we stuck that in the script. So he bites into the jelly donut, and he goes, "Oh, geez, don't you hate it when there's not enough?" And then he gets a custard donut. So anyway, we had to have prop donuts. So we bought a bunch of donuts because we thought, well, we may not get it on the first take. So we got 2 boxes of donuts. Well, I think we got it like on the 3rd take. So we got like a lot of donuts left. So being magnanimous, I say, let the crew have the donuts. Well, they're like gone in like 3 seconds. The donuts are all gone.
I mean, the box was just barely
So the
there.
next morning I show up and everyone's like, well, where are the donuts? So I tell the PA, okay, run out and get like a dozen donuts. Well, again,
That's not enough
people are
donuts.
hoarding.
Well,
People are grabbing donuts.
We had the makeup girl. Nikki had like 3 donuts.
putting
We said,
them in their-
you can't do that.
They're putting them in
There
their
are other people.
pockets. They're, they're
What else
swirling.
what was the other available food
Well, we had
options on
lots-
set?
oh, yeah, no, we
That was
had that.
only one of the donuts.
No, we had great food. We had full crafts. We like food on the set because if you're not paying people a fortune, you better give them good food.
That is true.
So we
That
did
is
breakfast and lunch.
And
so
had
they-
a great
had
craft service
craft
table. It was
service.
just like, I think because on a lot of sets they don't have donuts anymore. So it's
Or
like
cigarettes.
It's like forbidden fruit.
Everybody wants the low carb diets
Right.
these days,
Yeah.
or so they say.
Yeah.
Well, you bring
forget
out the
that.
donuts, baby.
That
We see where their
that was
loyalties
the
really lie.
running joke. We had 3 donut runs a day, and then when we had the screening of the movie, everybody was like, "Well, where are the donuts at?" And we were trying to we couldn't get it together, but we wanted to we found this place that makes lapel pins that were donuts. And we were going to try and hand them out to everybody in the crew. We didn't, unfortunately, get it together quickly enough.
But since that time, people have come back and said, we'll work with you again if you have donuts.
Yeah.
So we kind of know that's our little
and
hook.
the thing that it's said
That
to,
and a good script.
Well,
I'm hoping.
absolutely. I think the donuts probably
Yeah, they
carried
couldn't
more
care
weight.
less.
But the thing that it showed me was, yes, people are getting paid, but they want to have fun and they want to be treated like a person, like a member of the family, and that's what we always try to do. We both are very compulsive, so we're there before everybody else gets there, and we stay later than everybody else, and we over prep before we start to shoot. But when we're on the set, he's directing and I'm kind of like walking around, and you have to know when to make a joke, and you have to know when to hug somebody, and you have to know when to kind of say, you know what, that's really not acceptable. You have to not do that again because that's just not the way we do this stuff around here. And I think if you do that, people like that feeling and they feel like they're part of the family and not just somebody who's getting a paycheck at the end of the week.
So would you say then on set, you're the director, you're the guy in charge, and you're the morale booster?
Yeah, probably.
He's the clock guy.
Yeah. He sits in the chair. We now have our own chairs that have our names on the back of them,
nice.
which is very cool. The joke was I was...
Come a long way from being out of work actors.
Exactly. Well, the joke was when we were shooting Wages, I would sit next to Doug, and he'd be looking at the monitor, and I'd be going, I don't care what it looks like, just shoot something.
That was the line.
Just shoot something.
Just shoot
I don't
something.
care what you shoot, just turn the camera on and shoot something.
Yeah.
So then I would get up and go into the office because I'd be too nervous to sit looking at this. And while I was gone one time, somebody took with tape and wrote on the back of my chair, Mr. Sam. So it was the Mr. Sam chair.
The thing that ticked him off is that he'd come back and someone was sitting in Mr. Sam. Why are you sitting in my chair?
It's like a pecking order. I'm the
Didn't
producer.
you see the name?
Yeah, I'm like the producer. You're sitting in my chair. Don't you? I'm supposed to sit in the chair here. And it was like I don't have that kind of impact on people apparently.
So just to recap, okay, so going back to the beginning, I know, I'm piecing all this together like a little patchwork quilt.
Okay.
You guys started as actors, met through your kids, had a series on public access, did a web series, you got funded on a film, lost the funding, ended up making another film that you got funding on. That was your first feature that you did together. Right. What happened between the first feature and this feature that got you to the point where you were able to raise
We were actually
funds?
flying back from that feature and thinking, okay, we want to do a smaller feature that we can actually have a little more control of. Because we were producers on that and the writers, but we really couldn't help out like we wanted to. And that,
You wanted it to be yours.
yeah, as much as anything, we wanted to. We felt like we could help more. And then there were
The
times we
film in
couldn't.
Virginia was a really ambitious project. And sometimes when you have ambitious projects, not everything goes real smoothly.
Right.
So when we were flying back, also, like every actor, when you finish a job, you're unemployed. So we're sitting on the airplane flying back to LA, and we were basically saying, so what do we do next? So we decided,
Came up with a story.
yeah, we
And
would write our own script and make it a small movie. I went to a workshop, and this is a great tip for anybody listening or in here. I went to a workshop with this woman who's a development person, and what she suggested is you make 3 lists. You make a list of all the elements that you own, you make a list of all the elements that you can borrow, and you make a list of all the elements that you can buy.
That's really good advice.
So if you have, I have an SUV. So we put that in the list. Doug has a motorcycle, so we put that in the list. Doug has woodworking tools, which we've already established.
Yeah.
He has woodworking tools.
Want to see 'em?
You could, no, we don't. We don't want to see your woodworking tools. So you put that in the list.
For another day.
Yeah, another. I'm not here.
it's on the HBO now.
And then you go to the second list, which is elements that we met a guy that has a '64 Ford Falcon. So that was like, okay, for $100 we could have an exterior of a '64 Ford Falcon, which would really lend itself to Wages of Sin. So then we went to the third list, which is, okay, things you could rent. And then we wrote the script, and we didn't even look at the list, and we wrote our script, and then we went back to the list and said, okay, what can we pull out of this and drop into the movie? And we probably saved ourselves $15,000 or $20,000 before we even started.
Wow.
Yeah, because we knew we couldn't come up with the money. We thought, okay, getting investors and all, we can't say, oh yes, it's only going to cost $400,000. And they're going to say, excuse me?
Yeah.
It's like it's a small. So let's be realistic in the scale. Let's still do a feature, but let's do it so that it's character driven. Again, a lot of the movies that I like and Sam likes are personal movies, lives of others, things that, they don't always have to be German, but lives of others, that are small. Yeah, exactly, Ohio movies. But small movies with small casts are character driven, and you go, okay, this is something I want to watch, and and if you're lucky enough, you get the talent that's really good that can actually carry that through. So,
and I'll raise my hand and as the person who's always kind of going, okay, so how can we make money with this though?
That's a really good question, because we're getting close to time, so I got to start wrapping it up a little bit.
Boy, okay.
But this has all been fantastic. And speaking of being able to cut costs and save money, how much did it cost, and how were you guys able to fund this project?
The movie.
a little under 100,000.
A little under 100,000. And I think the secret of raising money is talk to everybody you can possibly think.
All your kids, friends, parents.
Also people that may be interested in the same kind of movie.
Right.
We're working on one now that's a sci-fi noir, tech noir they call it now. And it's one of those that we know people that love sci-fi and have money and are interested in that kind of movie. So those are the people we're going to. This is a character-driven piece, Wages of Sin. So we knew people that would like small, independent movies would be interested in something like that. We also shot a trailer.
Yeah, before you go out to ask for money, you need to have a business plan.
Right.
You need to have a poster. You need to either have a trailer, which doesn't have to be $1 million. You can shoot it with a Canon camera. You can shoot it with a couple of lights, just to give a feel for it. Or if you don't even want to do that, hire some kid who's at art school to do storyboards for you. Do 150, 200 storyboards that look really cool. go online and get clips from movies that have a feel like your movie, and don't lie. Don't say that's my movie, I shot those. Say basically, no, this is from this movie, but look at this shot in the alley. This is what we want this storyboard will look like this. And most people that you hit up for money don't even read the script.
No.
Wow.
They want to be in movies. They don't know how they're going to get into the movies. And
we actually had one investor say, I lose that much money in Vegas. It sounds like an interesting pitch. I swear to God. And we're both going, okay. And he goes, okay, now who do I make this check out to? And Sam and I are sitting across the table here, and we're going,
We were halfway. We literally took the guy out to lunch. We were halfway through the lunch, and he said, how about I write you a check for $10,000 right now?
And this was literally just people that you were meeting and knew, and you just knocked on everyone's door.
We didn't know him.
We didn't know him.
He was a friend of a friend. But we had a good spiel. We had a good pitch. We had all our stuff in line. And he liked the idea. He thought it was a cool kind of thing. And like he said, he works, he makes a fair amount of money. And he said, I lose that much in Atlantic City or Las Vegas in a weekend, so at least I got a chance to get my money back.
That's amazing.
And a hair cutter. Doug's hair cutter gave us money.
Yeah.
Now, all right. Now, I think the most important question that everybody in the audience wants to know is, how did you get this film distributed? It's coming out in 3 weeks on DVD. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And from start to finish, how long did that process take?
We finished the movie in October of 2010.
Right.
And you started from the conversation on the plane when you decided to make
That was January of 2010.
Okay, so about a year.
Yeah.
And then just now you got it distributed and it's about to be released in 3 weeks. Right. Tell us about how, because this is such a creative process, and so many people don't know what to do next because
there's a million
the industry
ways
is
you
changing.
can go about getting distribution. You can use self-distribution where you basically put it up on your own website, you do internet, you do all that kind of stuff. You can do a hybrid where you get a small distribution company that will basically probably put it on their website, put it on Hulu. You can do a full distribution deal where you basically, they buy your movie and say, thanks for coming by and see us in 7 years when the contract expires. What we did is we attempted to do the film festival route, and we were going to try to pick up a distribution company there. It's incredibly competitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did it for probably, 3 or 4 months, and we got
quite a lot of money trying.
We got some nibbles. We got some people showing some interest. They all passed, and so through John Wagner, who was our line producer, he said, "Have you guys considered hiring sales reps?" And we hadn't really considered that, but we went back and forth about, do we want to spend the next 6 months, because it's really a full-time job.
Yeah, it really is. Trying to hustle up those people you don't know and get them to even look at it when we didn't have it on, any kind of phone number or contact. So it was much easier for us to say, okay, let's hire people who already have those connections and let them do it. And it was really good. The first price they offered us, it was more than we thought we could afford, so we actually were able to negotiate with him.
And basically what they said, they were very honest. They're salesmen, and they said, well, it's a possibility that somebody like Lionsgate could pick it up. It's not a probability, but it's a possibility. But they said they have 3 rungs of distribution companies, and they said we will get it to the top rung, which is Fox, Searchlight, Lionsgate. They'll probably all pass, but for future reference, it's really good to have them look at the film, hear your name, see you connected with a good film. And as it turned out, one of the distribution companies that ended up passing, he left a message saying, we're passing on your film, and I called him back, and I think he thought I was going to yell at him. But I said to him, I just was curious. First, thanks for watching the movie, and can you give me some feedback on what you thought of the film? And all his feedback was based on commercial aspects, not on the. He liked the movie. He just said, I can't sell it.
It was.
But he said, I think you guys are good. When you make your next movie, give me a call.
Right.
So in that respect, rejections are sometimes almost as good as getting the deal.
It's a half open door for next time.
Well, it's interesting because the feedback we were getting from people was positive on the movie, but the comments were, it's not a big enough movie. It's not, and all those things that they're looking at.
You don't have star names attached.
And that's the problem with any independent film.
Well, it's true. When we were looking for funding for this, we actually had gone to a guy in Santa Barbara that had a lot of money and had connection to a lot of money, and we were pitching it to him, and he basically said, well, everyone tells me if it's not over 25 million, it can't be done in Hollywood. And it's just this unrealistic approach to things where you go, well, actually,
you can help yourself. I'll just throw this in. You can help yourself making independent films by picking a genre that's easier to sell.
Right.
This is a thriller, which travels well internationally. Sci-fi and horror are probably the two strongest genres as far as getting a sale. It's not maybe your first choice of movies, the genre that you would like to make, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can't make an interesting movie and pick that genre. The next film we're making is called Extraction, which is a sci-fi action kind of film. You know, we're sticking in all the stuff that we think is funny, that's interesting. We're putting in our politics, we're putting in our religious background, we're putting in all that stuff.
Some good character parts too.
Right.
I mean, there's some
but it's still it's in a genre that will sell both domestically and internationally.
And what's nice about that movie, we've actually had a reading here of that one. And it was really good, the response we got from that one. So.
That's great. That's great. So ultimately, finding a salesperson was the best way to go for you guys getting distribution.
Yes.
Well, yes. I mean, you have to weigh time.
How did you find that person?
Through John Wagner, who was our line producer. Right. He directed a film, and they had been the sales reps on the film.
And
they were great.
So through referrals.
We met them. We liked them. They were very straightforward, very honest with us.
That's so much a big part of this industry. It's just referrals and knowing people that know people.
And being honest with them.
Well, and also not being afraid to ask. That's the other thing we keep finding out is people are afraid to say they don't know. Right. We're more than willing to say we don't know.
Yeah.
And you know, and why not? And that way, otherwise you won't learn. There's so many people that are willing, you know, will say, "Oh no, I know how to do that," and they don't. You know, why do that? Why reinvent the wheel? Someone already knows how to do it. Talk to them. Don't be afraid to network, and don't be afraid to ask. Right. I mean, we're always big about saying, well, do you know anyone who does this or anyone who's ever had this experience? John Wagner was a perfect example.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take our first question from the audience. This is from Anna. She asks, can you tell us about how you go about funding the process? Kind of talked about that a little bit, but if you want to go more in depth into it.
Well, again, there's just like distribution, there's a million ways of funding movies, and every day people come up with some new way of funding it. There's equity financing, there's limited partnerships, you can, you know, what we hope to do with the next film is try to sell it foreign before we make the movie.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, that's one way that
they used to do that a lot, but it's now coming back in some like the sci-fi genre.
There's, you know, loans, there's government grants, there's a lot of ways to do it, and I think what you do is you cobble together, also do a joint venture with another production company.
And some states actually are still giving you tax
incentives.
Tax incentives. So you can use that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ohio has a great incentive.
Again, back to Ohio.
I think the South is also Louisiana.
Louisiana's
still has,
huge.
And New Mexico has a phenomenal program too, where they will give you back a rebate on anything that you buy or rent in the state.
That's amazing.
They'll give you a bump if you hire someone from the Navajo reservation, and they will even, for some bigger budget films, they'll even partially fund the film.
Wow.
And that's why that first one that was shot in Virginia, that was part of the deal of shooting it there instead of California because of the tax breaks.
Wow.
Anybody you know who has money, ask them for it. That's
all I can say is no.
At the end of the day, that's true. That's true.
That's where you start, and then when you get $10,000. It's much easier to get another $10,000 because you already have $10,000.
Right.
There you go. Yeah, that's true. The next question comes from Luke. What did you learn from making features that you didn't learn by making shorts?
Oh, delegation. That's what I would say.
Yeah, not being afraid to have someone else, have departments and people to take care of it, and not wearing all the hats. On a short, you kind of have to just because.
Right.
You know, no one's getting paid, and you want to say, well, I'll take all this responsibility. But when you spread it out, you find good people, and you go.
Well, we shot Solace, which is a short film that we made that won a couple of awards. I mean, it was the two of us and the actress. That was basically, that was three of us, you know, and we made the movie with the three of us. But you can't do that when you're doing a feature, so you have to.
We lit it, did the whole 9 yards, but it was just three people. So.
Yeah, it was a very simple little short.
And that's another thing, too. When you're shooting a short, it may be 2 to 3 days max of shooting, so you won't get burnt out the way you would with 25 days of shooting.
You need a sound stage, and you need a lot of equipment, and you need a.
And that was another thing for us. When we moved up to do the feature, all of a sudden it's like, okay, now people have to get paid. Not just crew, but actors.
Because of the commitment.
Yeah. I mean, I know myself, if I do something that I'm not getting paid, if I get a paying gig, I'm in the wind. So I wouldn't expect any less of anyone else, either crew or talent. If I'm not paying them, there's no commitment there. I mean, yes, there is because they want to do the part. But
Right.
if they get a paying gig, I totally understand them taking it.
Right.
So to step up to a feature, you say, now we want to pay people. Maybe not as much as we want to eventually, but let's pay everyone something so they all have something vested in
And
it.
for all the actors out there, we were always really pissed because they paid the crew, but they never paid the actors.
That is true. What is with that?
That's
very
what we said. What is with that?
Yeah.
Why would you pay the crew and not pay the actors?
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of the first things we did was, well, if the crew gets paid, the actors get paid also.
Yeah.
Because it's just, first, it's not fair.
Right.
And second of all, yes, the lighting is important, but if we have nobody to put the camera on, we have no movie. It's
called animation.
Yeah, exactly. We have a chair.
The next question comes from Twitter follower at Aubrey.
follower.
Yeah,
All right.
it's a new thing. Twitter. You guys on Twitter?
Yeah, I am. I don't know what it does, but I'm
I
on
don't
Twitter.
tweet, I don't Twitter, I don't sing.
I'm on Twitter, but I don't know what it does.
So this is at Aubrey M21.
Aubrey.
From one actor to another, what do you wish you knew then, now that you're on the other side of the camera?
Oh, that's a good question.
Wish I knew now.
What do you
As an
wish you
actor?
knew then that you know now that you're on the other side of the camera?
Don't try to guess
Yeah.
what the director or the producer wants when you come in for an audition. Make a choice.
Right.
Play. The best advice I ever got when I was acting was, for 30 seconds you have the role. So make your choices. Do whatever you want to do. If you don't get the role, that's their choice. You did it the way you wanted to do it, and you were really good at, and then walk away.
And hopefully, at least for me, is that you've got a director and people that want to nurture and support you. I mean, I used to always go in and think, oh my God, they're the enemy. I've got to try to convince them. They're already convinced. You already made it in the room.
Yeah.
Think of all the people that didn't even get called into the room. So you've already got the part. The thing is, they're just trying to put it all together.
Right.
So I know even now when I go into an audition, I feel a lot more relaxed because I already realized how many people I beat out just to get the audition.
And we always give adjustments to the actor because first of all, I want to see if they can take direction.
Right.
And also, I don't know how many times I've gone to an audition where your agent then says to you, you were like a million miles off, man. What were you doing in that audition?
No one said anything to it.
But the director went, oh no, that was great.
Oh, wow.
Well, why didn't he say, why don't you try it this way? And if I couldn't do it, I couldn't do it, but he never even gave me an adjustment. So,
Yeah, we do that.
Doug will say, you got anything you want to see this time? And we'll talk, and he'll give him an adjustment. And
also, it's funny, and again, being an actor and watching actors, you go, usually the first time, it's really nervous.
Yes.
And you got to get it out of your system. And the handshake, and then they're doing the whole, you say, okay, now you know what? Let's just say it and relax. You go, oh, okay, cool. And so it's a whole different animal the second time.
Yeah.
So it's really, and like Sam said, you also see if the actors can take direction.
Yeah.
It's huge. We were very lucky, again, on Wages, they were all theater trained actors.
Man.
So I and Sam said, you know what? We would love to actually spend a little time rehearsing. Could you give us a couple of days? Every one of them said yes.
And probably we're grateful for that.
yeah.
But beyond
Yeah.
that, they also brought things that changed the script. Sam and I said,
Which we
that's
stole like
better.
nobody's
yeah,
business.
we have no problem with taking it because it's better than what we have there.
Yeah, exactly.
And they had good questions about, they could take the time to say, well, in this part, what about this? So as an actor, listening to another actor say, yeah, you know what? That's a good point. Let's talk about that. Let's see if we can do it. Yeah. Sam would go away and he goes, here's a good thing we can add there. So we'd put it in and the actors would work with it. So it really helped.
It's also really interesting. You'll write 3 pages and then an actor will do it with a look. And you have to be smart enough as a writer and a producer to say,
yeah, we don't need all that crap.
Cut all that stuff. Just like,
it looks good on the page.
That's
shitty
true.
on
A lot
stage.
of-
So.
We don't need that,
Yeah.
man. He's got it right there. We just put the camera on and turn it on. That's all we need.
But
I think
again, it's
that's
giving the actors the freedom to do that.
We were shooting a scene. We're shooting a scene, and it's like going on and on and on and on and on. And I'm standing there, and he's standing there. Oh man, what do we do? And we're like, cut 3 pages. Just start here and lose 3 pages. And we're like, okay, good.
That's the biggest difference I found between film and theater is that with film, you really can say it with subtext and a look.
Oh,
with
yeah.
theater, you've got to explain and
Oh,
explain
yeah.
and
The camera
explain.
pushes in, and it's
It's
your head
truly
is-
a thing that we're learning as filmmakers is the fact that because we've written for the stage, we can cut down. We can, the first draft usually has more than enough in it, and we can then hone it down to maybe just a look.
And then you also have to be flexible and say, lose it.
Yeah. So our next question comes from Charisse. She says, I'm trying to crew a short film in the no low budget range. I'm sure you guys know all about that. I know that I can't pay a rate, but I also don't want to insult the talent. Any advice around navigating pay rates?
Sure. You basically say, you know what? We don't have any money to pay you. Yeah. That's where you start.
Yeah.
You start by saying,
just be honest.
So many people go, well, you know, the budget of the film is $20,000, but we're not going to pay you anything. So you want to do it? You know, you just say, here's the deal. We're going to shoot at my house. We'll have great food. I'll give you a copy of the movie after we finish. Next gig we do, which will probably be in 3 or 4 months, we'll use you in that one. Do you want to do it? And if they say no, you say, God bless you. You know, I wish you all the best. No hard feelings. We'll catch you the next time because we like you.
Well, also be realistic and shoot on the weekend because most actors have either other jobs or they get acting gigs or auditions. So on the weekend, if you shoot then, they're more than willing. Again, I know I've done this myself. I'm more than willing to give up a weekend to shoot something because I don't have anything else going on.
Right.
If you call me to shoot on a Monday and I get a gig on Bones, trust me, I'm not going to be there for a freebie.
Yeah.
So, and they shouldn't either. So part of even the crew, we had a situation where one of our crew people, she actually got a union gig that was a paying, and we said, if you got someone to replace you, take it. And she actually came back to work with us after that gig was over because she said, I've never had anyone say, fine, take the more.
But what we did as an addendum, we said to them, if you could just do us a favor, if you are going to take another gig, let us know in advance, and can you call somebody that you trust to come and cover you? And all of them did.
So you just make it really easy to work with them.
But on a no budget, definitely you want to make it easy for everyone.
Good food.
Yeah, good donuts.
Donuts and good food, man. That's the ticket.
Okay, so final questions, 2 questions. Where can we see this film when it's released in 3 weeks?
Well, you can see it on our website, www.wagesofsinmovie.com. That's it. Little Dog Productions LLC.com. I don't know where they're. Osiris Entertainment is the distribution company, and I don't know where they're. Basically, they'll have it on their website, but they're in the process of negotiating with other people. I'm sure it'll be up on all the standard things, Hulu and Netflix and things like that. But we're hoping that it'll also be someplace else that pays us a little more money.
So keep your eyes open for Wages of Sin.
It's coming out in, I think, the end of May.
Great, great. And final words in 2 sentences or less. What advice would you give to filmmakers who are just starting?
Oh gosh, make films. You know, that's the best advice.
Just do it.
Don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah. You know,
I mean, there's enough people that are going to tell you no everywhere. Don't listen to them. Find all those people that will say yes.
Everybody. It doesn't make a difference if it's New York, LA, Chicago, whatever city you live in. Everybody who's in the film business or in theater wants to get to the next level. So you basically have to say to them, okay, how can we help each other get to the next level? You know, you've been doing guest starring roles on television, but you want to do feature films. I say to you, I can't pay you as much as you would like to get, but I can give you a starring role in a feature film. And, you know, you'll get cast people to do that. Make a movie. That's what you do. Make shorts, make longer shorts, make features.
All right. Thank you so much, Sam Ingraffia and Doug Burch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if we got through any questions.
And cut.